Warning: the Dub Talk podcast contains language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. There will also be spoilers for various anime throughout the course of this episode. Please use caution in case we discuss a series you haven't finished yet. Finally, the opinions expressed are those of the individual participants and may not reflect the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Dub Pow, the show where a bunch of squirrels get together and hope it's the day that the Chosen One hasn't found us to put us into a weaponry form. I am your lovely host, Megan, and with me I have the great prairie dog Amon.
Bork!
And the wonderful beaver Hardy.
That's a lot of nuts!
In this wonderful day of April 1st, we are here to talk about the greatest animal weapon kung fu movie of all time, Kung Pao Enter the Fist. As I said, I'm Megan and I'm joined by Amon and Hardy, and obviously if you've checked the date, it is April Fool's, so what better to do than cover what essentially is the ghost stories of kung fu movies.
That is an apt description, I'd have to say.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. However, this one is filled with slightly less offensive things. But for those of you who don't know, Kung Pao Into the Fist is a movie from 2002 that was directed, written, and stars mostly one man named Steve Odenkirk. And if you don't know who that is, I will tell you who he is. But essentially, this man has written and produced a bunch of things, including some things from your childhood, such as the 1998 film Patch Adams starring Robin Williams, H. Ventura: When Nature Calls, The Nutty Professor. But I think the most important to us, at least, for things that people actually enjoyed, where he was the executive producer and writer to the 2003 film Bruce Almighty, and if you are a child of my age, you would know him as the director, writer, and producer of the 2001 cult Nickelodeon classic Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
That's a big one.
This guy's had an interesting career.
Yes, he has.
He also directed the independent film Thumb Wars.
That he did.
Which is basically Star Wars with CGI faces implemented over a bunch of thumbs.
Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we are here to talk about Kung Pao Into the Fist, which I would think might be his most known work. And if you haven't seen Kung Pao, you've probably had it quoted at you. So, to just give a brief summary, the movie is a movie within a movie. It's basically spoofing all of the Kung Pao, like the Kung Fu movies of the day, as well as their dubs. Because, let's be real, a lot of Kung Fu movies have awful fucking dubs. Basically, it is a story of a character just called The Chosen One, who sets off to avenge the death of his parents at the hands of the Kung Fu legend Master Pain. Along the way, he just encounters a bunch of weird characters, fights a lot of stuff, and there's a terribly rendered CGI cow. And if you were a child or a teenager in the early 2000s, when this movie got, trailers in theaters, you saw that cow everywhere.
This was still where The Matrix was still pretty popular, and so, of course, they had to do the whole Matrix bin with the cow shooting milk from its udder.
And then, Alma, what were you saying?
I did not see this movie back when it came out. I think I was just old enough that it registered as, stupid, not fun stupid, or what, I don't know. But I found it very funny watching it now. It's like, I remember the cow I don't remember the face on the tongue. That somehow didn't make it in any of the promotional materials at the time for who knows what
Yes.
reason.
Oh yeah, tonguey. Yeah, so if
Why
you...
is it always blinking?
God, I want to pull it out with tweezers. So, for people, like, before we go into, like, the voice acting part, I kind of want to get a little bit more of the production stuff out of the way. So if you're wondering, how in the fuck is Steve Odenkirk every character in this movie? Is that this movie utilized, a bunch of footage from a film called Tiger and Crane Fist, otherwise known as Savage Killers, and, new footage shot by Odenkirk. But to make Odenkirk's face appear on the main character, they did a lot of CGI compositing and reshooting. And of all the things, it holds up better than some CGI from 2022, like, from the modern age. And there's also the terrible CGI cow and animals, but, like, it's actually a fairly interesting product of its time. And, yeah, do you guys just want to get into it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're just kind of gonna go over everything at once, because, again, this is basically a two-man production. One-man production. So this was dubbed over at a studio called The Clubhouse, and it was directed, adapted, and translated by, obviously, Steve Odenkirk. He also plays and does the voices of the Chosen One, Master Tang, Master Pain, aka Betty, Ling, and Ying, Wimplo, Master Joe, and Chu Fatlip, and the peasant woman at the beginning of the movie who picks up a baby doll that has just been unceremoniously rolled down a cliff. And then the only other character who is not played by Steve Odenkirk is Woe, played by Jennifer Tung. Obviously, Steve didn't play the original actors, so to quickly go over them, Master Tang, the original actor, is played by Hu Lun Chen. Betty is played by Fei Lung, Ling by Ling Se and Lin Yan. Wimplo is played by Lau Kar-wing. Woe is played by Jennifer Tung, like, at all the time. Master Do is played by Chi Ma. And the original Chosen One actor is Jim Wang Yu. But Amon, there's a special person you pointed out in the credits. Who do you want to say who that is?
Oh yeah, let me pull up the thing I found because I'm gonna mispronounce his last name otherwise. In here, as a masked fighter, is a guy named Chad Stileski. Do either of you recognize that name off the top of your head? I'm just curious.
I don't.
Alright, Chad Stileski is known for three things in more or less this order. One, on a very sad note, he was Brendan Lee's stand-in on The Crow after he died, because they were buddies.
Oh.
Two, he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double on The Matrix, and later was like one of the people in charge of stunts on the other Matrix movies. And of course, number three is the thing that came out of that, which is that he directs the John Wick movies. Those are all him.
Holy shit! You mean the guy who was in the mask at the
man who threw that shitty little smoke bomb is the man who directs the John Wick movies, yes.
Holy shit. I did not know that.
Yep.
And then a little less famous than Chad is the Boombox Henchman played by Nasty Ness, who keeps playing Baby Got Back.
Which, do you know who Nasty Ness is?
I do not, Hamad, please.
But I'll be I don't know. I'm not familiar with him either, but I was looking him up because, and guess what? He is Sir Mix-a-Lot's original DJ. So there you go. Yes.
Really?
So says the internet.
Yeah. The only other song he ever plays in the whole movie, I think, is he tries to play one song towards the end, and then it gets turned into Black Betty, which is really just absolute god tier music choice.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's just get into it and just talk about this. Because there are two actors for this entire movie, and then one of them is just Steve Odenkirk just doing whatever he fucking feels like.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I watched the behind the scenes on the DVD, and it wasn't originally going to be like that. They actually were going to dub it over with different actors. But what it found out was, they found that Steve was going over each scene saying, hey, I want this character to sound like this, and he would actually do the voices. And they say, well, if you're going to do the voices just like that, why don't you just do the whole movie? And so he's like, okay. And so he did every voice in the whole movie, and he was able to just pull out some wacky, zany voices. Going back and watching it now, some of them might come across a little racially insensitive, but it didn't come from a place of malice at the time. I think it's mostly just harmless and silly and goofy. But yeah, as far as Jennifer Tung is concerned, she hasn't been in much. She's been an actress for about 20 years, and mainly in background roles on television and stuff like that. So this was mainly her biggest motion picture role. So
I want to bring up that if you get the DVD, it's like it's old enough that it has like text bonus features. It has bios of the actors. And they have one for Jennifer Tung because she's one of the small number of actors in new footage. And it highlights her first major role that she got. Would you like to know what that was?
What is it?
Please.
Do either of you remember Masked Rider, Saban's attempt to bring Kamen Rider to America?
I drink to forget Masked
Kind
Rider.
She's in that. She's one of the villains, I think. So no stranger to low budget martial arts nonsense, I guess.
Probably. Oh, 100%.
Again, I had not seen this movie previously. This is one of these ones I knew by reputation, but I just never gotten around to actually watching it. And I will be honest, 100% less dodgy Asian accents than I was expecting. I was like, how well is this going to age given when it was made? And it was like, I am shocked. This aged the amount of poorly aged stuff in here is much lower than I was expecting it to be. I realize that sounds like I'm damning it with faint praise, but no, actually, good for you.
I think the only ones that really sound like stereotypically Asian are Master Tang and Master Do, and that's basically it. All the others are just silly voices.
Yeah, I feel like he's more just going for stiff old dude more so than anything. So it's like this could have been a lot worse, is what I'm getting at. Astonishingly so.
Yeah, no, I get that 100%, and I kind of did compare this to the Ghost Stories of its time or the thing, and I think Ghost Stories actually came out on Blu-ray in America probably around when this was released. But it is a lot less overtly offensive than Ghost Stories. There's some stuff that's questionable, but a lot of the humor is based mostly on kind of making fun of the tropes more than, just shitting on the original film. Because I think that there's a lot of really funny jokes in here. And things making fun of the fact that a lot of dubs for kung fu movies don't match the lip flaps. Because there are parts where, here's one. The dog will bark. You will visually see the dog's mouth open, but the bark won't come out until a minute later. Or a couple of seconds behind. And then there are things that's a lot of nuts. That'll be $4.
You want fries with that?
Do you want fries with that? And I think that a lot of the humor, the most humorous moments in the movie are just some of the absurd things that are yelled at people. One of my personal favorite ones is I'm just a happy little horny honey from Jennifer. From, Whoa. Just absolute kills me every time. And Jennifer's delivery of that, and her just, taking her clothes off and putting it back on. And it's just it's oh my god, I don't want to be a slut, but there's just a lot of really funny writing in this, and I think that, of all things, Amazon, this could have been so much worse.
It's interesting if you watch the behind the scenes, the making of, they have, on the DVD, they have a version of the film that takes out all the overdubbing, so it's the original Chinese dialogue from the film, plus all the nonsensical dialogue from Steve Odekirk and Jennifer Tung. And even the other actors who they hired, they have them actually reading these nonsensical lines in person. So it is a very interesting way to watch the film if you've already seen it, and it just makes it even more foolish, if I was to say it. But yeah, no, what they did was they actually wrote out an entire lines for all the new actors to read that were completely nonsensical and silly and had nothing to do with the plot, and then they dubbed them over that intentionally, so that you would have like Steve Odenkirk like screaming out loud, and then in the dub it says, "I imply you to consider."
Yeah.
That might be my favorite joke. It's the
okay.
It's just out of it. Not the mismatch of the visual and the audio just really gets me. It's like I've seen this badly dubbed movie before. I appreciate this.
I think one of my other favorite little like moments is when the two ventriloquist guys. Your voice tricks won't work on me. Your mouth tricks won't work on me. And it's like, we're just two ventriloquists.
Tell you what, how quotable this movie is my friend Mr. Subarashi came down to Anime Fest one year, and we were just walked down the aisles of the convention center and just randomly saying, "We are both ventriloquists, ventriloquists, ventriloquists. We are both ventriloquists, so we practice every day. One carries a staff, one carries a paper roll, and neither of us have sifts. But if there's only one thing, we are ventriloquists." And we would just march, and I would start singing, and he would follow up completely, and
I think if you guys each had to pick a character that you think like steals the movie, mine's probably got to be either Betty or the head of the Crane School.
I'm gonna go with Betty just because he's such a like you can find the original version of this on like Tubi and Amazon in a couple places in a very bad transfer of the dubbed version, and like Betty is already like his character is already so silly in the original, just with his ridiculous haircut, and
yes.
And Hardy may have seen this. Odenkirk basically talks briefly on the commentary of like why this one, and it was like, according to him, it's like the main one was the bit where like there's a bunch of guys with bow staffs like trying to wail on him, and one of them just cracks him right in the balls, and he does not he no sells the entire thing, and it's like, all right, yeah, I want to work with this movie.
Yeah.
And you could tell Odenkirk's having a lot of fun playing this guy. Just like, no, I really want to ham up. Just like he's the bad guy, and he is patently ridiculous because everyone in this movie is, and he's clearly just.
I think one of my favorite lines from him is he's up on this waterfall, and he just goes, "I spanked you as a baby, and I'll spank you again, bitch." And then afterwards, he beats them, and then him and Woe's dad roll down this waterfall, and so what happened was the Chosen One brings his baby booties from when Betty tries to kill him as a baby, and Betty just picks it up, and just Odenkirk's delivery of memento as he's holding the baby shoes is peak fucking comedy.
Booty.
And I think my other probably steals the show performance is, I think it's the narrator, who I believe is Ling, who is the guy who's in charge, or Master Tang, who is in charge of the Crane School.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some good ones like that, like, and I think the one that gets me is, okay, in this moment I have option A or option B. And option A is dodging out of the hand and hitting him back, and B is getting hit in the face and dying. And he goes, and then he gets hit in the face and dies, and then he just goes, should have gone with option A.
I know that Betty is easily the show stealer, but you have to give it to Wimp Low. We trained him wrong as a joke.
On purpose.
Try my nuts to your fist technique. I bleed first, making me the winner.
My nipples look like milk buds. I'm like, fuck! My nipples look like milk duds.
I know it's not a voice performance, but him trying to jump over the wall and just completely botching it is just that's some good solid physical comedy right there.
Just
Made
like
better in the
absolute-
credits where they had a take where his wig flies off in the middle of it.
Oh my- Yeah, this man absolutely fucking eats it. The good thing to know about this is that if you feel like the existence of this version of the movie is bad, that there is the original dub and, like, original film out there. Because I think that, of all things, as much as we enjoy this, I don't think that this would fly today.
No,
Nah.
not like this at least.
It barely flew 20 years ago.
I think anyone who wanted to do this would just make a funny kung fu movie. To be fair, like, in the new bits, the martial arts are pretty well done. Like, if they wanted to just make a funny kung fu movie, they probably could have.
Oh, 100%.
Especially, I read for a while this had the most effect shots in any Hollywood movie, at least for a little bit, and I'm sure at the end Odenkirk was like, I should have just made a kung fu movie. That would have been easier. Why didn't I do that?
It probably is, and I just imagine that in my reason saying that this wouldn't be made today is not in the sense of, oh my god, it costs so much money to do this, or, oh my god, there's so much, like, there is that there has become this growing sentiment of, if it is not 100% faithful to the original, you are a terrible person and you must die. And this is a weird case where 100% I agree that this probably shouldn't have happened in this movie. On the other hand, it is very clear that the base plot and some of the effects were used, and they just used it like Power Rangers uses Super Sentai footage.
Having watched both movies, that's a good point of comparison, I think.
Basically, this is what happens if you MST3K or riff tracks a movie by adding new footage to it.
Yeah, which is sometimes made funnier when you see the original and realize how little they changed. Like, you know, in the final fight, it's revealed that the Chosen One survives because he had a squirrel hidden under his shirt that absorbed the impact of the blow.
Yes!
Right. Would you like to know how the fight in the real movie ends?
Please!
Yeah, it's just... Alright, it's not a squirrel, but, like, he just pops open his shirt and he's wearing, like, this big fucking medallion under where it now has, like, a handprint in it.
Wow.
And he just chucks it off, and it's like... I'm gonna let you in on it. I did a little research, and from what I can tell, Crane and Tiger Fist is kind of considered, like, an okay movie, and I've definitely seen some people point out, too, like, Odenkirk really didn't have to do much to make parts of this funny. Like, he basically just pumped it up a little bit, but, like, this movie's kind of goofy.
Yeah.
It's well choreographed and not particularly well directed, is I think what the assessment is for a lot of people.
I mean, like, there are just parts of this movie, like, I do appreciate a lot of this movie being, like, calling out some of the dumb stuff that's in the movie. Like, when he's training to remove the triangles, and he just goes up to this blacksmith and goes, "Can you make," and he just describes it to the T, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." Or, like, when Betty is first coming into town and the mayor is like, "Thank you for beating up this random person."
Do what he says or he'll cut off your big toe.
And then it cuts to his shoe bleeding. So yeah, are you guys ready to move this into final thoughts, actually?
What are your favorite quotes? Which ones do you like to pull out every now and then for some random reason?
I pull out wee woo a lot.
Which is great, because apparently that was just like a filler line Steve Odenkirk made up because he couldn't think of anything funny to say.
Yeah, that's a lot of nuts, obviously.
Yeah, that one gets a lot.
Yeah, tell me if you see a Radio Shack. The Taco Bell song.
Taco Bell,
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, product placement from Taco Bell.
Oh, I whip out We Trained Him Wrong on purpose a lot.
That's a good one.
I use that one as a meme for idiots on the internet, so.
Yes, I do that too.
It goes well, it pairs...
That's what I like to use.
It pairs well with the stubborn mule from Family Guy.
I usually use the We Trained Him Wrong as a joke for, like, anime characters that think they're hot shit.
I mean, you're not wrong.
It's a good one. I'm a happy horny honey comes up for me every so often, just because that's my favorite line in the movie. Oh god, what are some of the other ones that usually get me?
I don't like him very much. Let's kill him.
I think the one moment for me, though, that's, like, is completely, like, not a quote, though, that sticks out is when the baby wanders to the cliff and just keeps rolling.
Yeah, the lady picks him up and goes,
It's like, they clearly...
and then just keeps rolling him back down the mountain.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye! I think the best part about that is you could tell that it's just some baby doll they probably picked up from Walmart.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they're French! Stinky pits and all! So, I have to ask, because Amon, what is the actual ending to the original movie?
Oh, no, where he rips the little pyramids off his chest. And that's how he dies, just like he cackles and then blood spurts out of them and then he starts like keeling over.
Oh my god.
He takes the medallion off, Ling Ling shows up, they embrace, the end.
Oh my Christ.
Like, I get the, like, I will note, like, this, I try to look around, like, you know, how well regarded is the original, and I think part of the reason he was allowed to do this is I get the feeling the rights holders are like, this is a mid-level movie by the guy who used to be the biggest name in martial arts, and then Bruce Lee happened, and he was no longer the biggest name in martial arts.
Oh my god.
And this was like 3 years after Enter the Dragon, so like Jimmy Woo Yang, he's a very talented guy, but like he was definitely yesterday's news when this movie was made, and I think you can kind of see that a little bit in the quality. It's a very goofy movie to begin with. Like, Odenkirk didn't have, like, he sometimes just had to punch things up a little bit to take it from silly to truly ridiculous a lot of the time.
You said it was a goofy movie. Do you think we all see eye to eye about how we feel about it?
Booty.
Betty. Oh, another underrated moment of this movie if you've never seen it. You want to see a magic trick? Now your shirt is red!
They just clearly realized the footage didn't match correctly and just made up an excuse for it.
Birdie, 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 birdie. Tiger.
There's a weird way where this movie is pure cinema and that it's just a bunch of people figuring out creative problems on the fly, and I kind of love it for that.
Yeah, it's very much, it's like, is this a movie a product of its time? Yes. Is this movie also a completely fascinating look at basically, like, making the highest budget Power Rangers-esque shitpost of all time? The answer is, I think it's pretty successful. I like this movie. I think it's fucking hilarious.
There are worse ways to spend 81 minutes of your time.
This is the kind of movie that had there are so many points where this could just fall apart and be really dire, and it is like the people involved cared a little too much to let that happen, and I'm kind of impressed because this feels like it should be bad, like not fun bad, just bad, and instead it's like just really fun and stupid.
The critics hated it though.
Like, I can't. This is not. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I'm curious. I want to see something. No, keep talking. I'm just gonna look up something up for my own. Amon's
about to read Rotten Tomatoes to see if he's gonna stab somebody. like, I genuinely, like, I'm sorry this episode isn't going to be very long for people, but there's literally, like, 2 actors, and we've talked about all that we can. I genuinely think that this was a lot of fun, and like Hardy said, there's a worse way you could spend, like, 81 minutes of your life. I don't know, you could spend that 81 minutes, I don't know, getting yourself hitting the balls with a bow stick. Or finding out that, butter on your popcorn was liquid and it was not and it was dairy free. You're in trouble with that one.
I'd rather spend 81 minutes watching this than playing Queen's Blood.
every 7 hour. I'd rather do this than be stared at by the Moogle from 7 remake. For 81 minutes. That thing has done crimes.
I wanted to see.
Go ahead, I'll finish.
I wanted to see if Roger Ebert had reviewed this. I guess someone else at the Chicago Sun-Times got to do it that week.
Damn. Could you have imagined Roger Ebert talking about this movie?
This is what I'm curious about, because the thing this made me think of. He didn't review this. He did review Freddy Got Fingered, which he did not enjoy. But I have one of his books of, like, negative reviews, and there's a review for, like, a different, like, shitty comedy in there, where he briefly breaks the side of, like, he brings up Freddy Got Fingered as a he brings it up as, like, now, I didn't enjoy Freddy Got Fingered, but I still think about it from time to time. Like, it left an impact on me. It was clearly doing something right, as opposed to this trash, which is just, I'm going to forget about this after I'm done writing the movie. And I kind of wonder, like, I could see him having a similar opinion about Kung Pao, of kind of like, I didn't enjoy this. But the creators clearly made the movie they wanted to make, and I can respect that, even if I don't like watching it.
I feel like Kung Pao is part of that, like, era of movies from the early 2000s that are very much a product of its time, but God, can you still quote them to this day, like Dodgeball? Which is another, like, I'll admit, Dodgeball is very problematic. I can still quote a lot of Dodgeball and Underdog Story.
Yeah. Same thing with the first Zoolander.
Like, I don't know a person out there who doesn't know if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Though that is one of the funniest references and, like, funniest jokes in Dodgeball. It is not the one that I quote often. That is usually, of all things, it is either the urine joke or, damn it, Bernice! But, like, the original Zoolander, like Hardy said, what's, like, one of those other mid-2000s movies that everybody quotes?
That's a good one. Probably another Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I was gonna say pick something that either Ben Stiller or Vince Vaughn was in, and you're probably gonna get some hits for it, you know?
Oh, I have nipples, can you milk me?
God damn it.
Are you mad that I made you remember Meet the Parents exist?
Robert De Niro's had a very weird career, and sometimes I remember that. It's
I would also probably throw up The Emperor's New Groove as one of, like, the most quotable, like, movies of that era, too.
Mm-hmm.
Just
highly underrated.
Yay, I'm a llama again, or pull the lever, or
Kronk, how did we get here? I have no idea. By all accounts, it makes no sense.
Does no sense. Listen, I would pay to do an alternatives on The Emperor's New Groove, only to talk about how great the comedic pairing of Eartha Kitt and Patrick Warburton was.
Oh, for sure.
Well, he ain't getting any deader. But, so, I think we're done here. We hope you've had a nice little April Fool's. So guys, tell me where we can find you.
I am Spaceman Hardy. You can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter, at Spaceman Hardy. Most of these days, I'm just playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so... And I switch that out every once in a while with the occasional Tekken 8 or Power Wash Simulator, so that's basically how I spend my time.
I'm Amon. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at AmonDuel US, where I talk about whatever is passing through my brain at the moment. And I also have a dusty old song, which will not be very dusty for some people, including people on this podcast, but I can share it for you if you like.
Please.
Well, I like to try and do something that is simpatico with whoever we're talking about. This obviously takes the bones of something else to make something new out of it. Weirdly enough, Black Betty is actually a good example of that. That is that's like a a cappella like blues song a guy named Leadbelly did way back in the day, and then Ram Jam got it and turned into a rock song. So that's actually, I actually thought that was unintentionally brilliant. I don't think they meant to do that. I think they just picked it because Betty was in the name, but however, in that regard, there's a guy out there, of course, who does this all the time. You know him. I know him. We all love him. Weird Al Yankovic.
Of course.
Yeah.
I don't want to highlight one of his regular parodies because those are great, but I feel like the spirit of this movie is closer to what he calls his style parodies, where he doesn't do a specific song by an artist. He kind of tries to parody their vibe, their sound as a whole. And if you're talking about the style parodies, like all of them are good, but there is one that arguably towers over all the other ones. It is the only one that, as far as I know, ever caused a member of the original band to have an existential crisis about what they're even doing with their lives. If this dumb comedian with an accordion made a better version of their material than they did. And that is, of course, Dare to Be Stupid.
Yes.
You can find clips of Mark Mothersbaugh looking incredibly depressed, talking about, this is better. This is more of a Devo song than most Devo songs. And just looks absolutely miserable the entire time.
I think that's mainly
I'm not gonna lie.
I think that was mainly a bit that he was doing. I don't think he actually got super depressed.
I know, but like Mark Mothersbaugh is like the way he sells it so well that like I do have to wonder if he's maybe drawing on hearing it being like, well, fuck. What are we supposed to do now?
See, when you were building up to this, I was not thinking it was going to be Dare to Be Stupid. I thought it was going to be Albuquerque.
Albuquerque's great, but I'm not sure I don't know what Albuquerque's parodying.
Albuquerque's
I don't either, I just know.
Like, as far as I know, that's just a Weird Al original. I don't think that's parodying, like, anything in particular. Other than maybe just, like, really rambling story songs that don't go anywhere.
Now, there is one of his other longer songs that off of this album. That is a very direct Frank Zappa style parody, which is Genius in France.
Genius in France?
Yeah.
Hey. Love that one.
I am sadly not as well versed in Al, as Weird Al as I should be.
I'd consider that an opportunity to listen to some of his stuff. Yeah.
I will. So going over me, I forgot to talk about myself. Hi, I'm Megan. You can follow me at QueenError2. I shitpost on the regular, post pictures of my 11 pound gremlin child, Shinya, and my 60 pound barrel horse, Panda. As well as other things. But if you like us and what we do, we're the Dub Talk Podcast. You can follow us at Dub Talk on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and you can follow YouTube, Twitch, which we use sometimes. But we put out our content on like Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can get it, as well as YouTube. If you like what we do and you would like to donate to us as a one-time, you can click our Ko-fi. But if you want to donate to us on the regular, we do have a Patreon, which includes our $5 Patreons, Michelle, Travis, and my parents. And our $10 tier, Anthony Brown, Carly Lesticow, Quinoa Soup, Marissa Lenti, and Otaku Anthony. Our wonderful, awesome, amazing theme song is written by Gabriel Licinelli, or Ponpoco in the Distance. You can find more of their work at ponpocointhedistant.com or at Gabriel or Gab R. Policinelli on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Guys, thank you for a wonderful, awesome April Fools. And I believe it is time for us to go get those nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of nuts.
And fries with that. So good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. Otaku on. And remember that it's Betty.